The famous Benin bronzes, because the term ancient has been kind of referred to in a way that implies that it's a dead civilization. And what I mean by that is people don't necessarily know that we are still living, that actually even after the bronzes were stolen, we continued making bronzes here. The bronzes have been made the same way and passed down through these guilds which make these artifacts. But these artifacts were treated in museums like dinosaur fossils and things that they dug from the earth. They're not actually associated with the living civilization of Benin. And so that is why today is called This is Ancient Benin. Because we are an ancient culture, we're still living. You just saw some of the songs and dances and the traditional dance troops. You know, we have been singing these songs for thousands of years, you know, for a very, very long time. You know, but we want to showcase that we're still making artifacts and that we're living civilizations. So, so I hope that you'll be interested and you'll enjoy what you see here today.
Can we put our hands together for the yourself? And so where is Mr. Lucas Okoro? Lucas!
This event is called This is Ancient Benin because as you can see, we recreated what ancient Benin used to look like. So you're in this exhibit now, which is showcasing Benin's first guild.
This work is actually called the Return of Oba. So it's a hieroglyph. It's the largest Benin bronze plaque ever made, and I made it to depict the fact that ancient Benin is called ancient Benin because of its age, not because it's a dead civilization. That actually we've been living for a long time as an ancient civilization, and the traditions and the culture that we practice have been passed down and continue till this day. So, for example, Benin actually has the oldest living guilds in the world, including the guilds of broadcasting, the guilds of wood carving, and these are guilds where membership is passed down, you know, by heritage, and they're ongoing. So, it's interesting because, you know, we've recently, you know, the foreign museums have finally agreed to return some of the stolen Benin bronze artifacts. So, it's interesting to be unveiling this work because I wanted to show that the fact that at no point did we ever stop making these bronzes the same way after they were stolen. There is this misconception, actually a dissociation of ancient Benin and actually the Benin bronzes from Benin people themselves. Benin people are not associated with the Benin bronzes. We're not even associated. The museums that house these bronzes actually created the concept of ancient Benin as a way of dissociating Benin people from those bronzes, because ancient Benin became some kind of archaeological, you know, discovery, like they went and dug out the bronzes like dinosaur fossils, which is not true. You know, the bronzes, we're still been making them since today, even the same way. So I wanted to show that we can still make new artifacts and artifacts that have just as more, if not more, value than the ones that they stole, using the exact same traditional methods. This actually also is to demonstrate the fact that our bronze plaques and our bronze works were a form of writing. So in 2019, I actually launched a petition to have the UK museums officially classify the Benin bronzes and the Benin plaques as hieroglyphs, which I feel is important because they are a form of writing. And usually when people hear the term hieroglyph, they're associated with ancient Egypt. People are used to seeing their drawings, and there was a form of writing. But the Benin bronzes and the Benin arts have not actually been given that same recognition, that these are not just mere artworks, they're actually our way of writing. And so I wanted to actually showcase that by writing the story of Obayawari I in bronze. And so that's exactly what this depicts here. This is a very interesting hieroglyph because it shows the true story of Obayawari I, who we call Obayawari Ogidigan, who is Obayawari the Great. He is probably the most revered and most appreciated Oba from Benin history. Essentially, he was the first real emperor and the first real warrior king of Benin, and he's credited as essentially turning it from a kingdom into a full-fledged empire. So he was a really, really great ruler of Benin, and he lived in 1400s. And so the story here simultaneously depicts two things. It depicts the true story of Obayawari I, but it simultaneously is depicting the Benin traditional belief in reincarnation. So in our traditional and Benin culture believe in reincarnation, and we believe that people have 7 lives and were reincarnated 7 to 9 times. So it's very interesting, and I wanted to depict that. And the reason it's simultaneously depicting those two things is because this bronze was made during the time of Obayawari II, who is our current Oba of Benin. And when an Oba takes the name of an Oba that previously lived, it's believed that that Oba is the reincarnation of the Oba. The work is about 7 by 7 feet long and wide, and it's made out of 2 tons of pure brass. So it's complete brass, and it's so obviously quite heavy. Interesting to be unveiling this work because the British museums and German museums and some other European museums finally agreed, after many long decades of campaigning from the palace and campaigning from Benin, to have these artifacts returned. They finally agreed some kind of arrangement to return them. And so this is a way of showing that we're still capable of making the same artifacts. In fact, even better and bigger now. And that I'm actually offering this artifact to the British Museum in appreciation for the fact that they're returning our stolen artifacts. And by doing so, I believe that we can change the narrative of what museums represent. And museums have this tarnished reputation now because of their association with looted and stolen artifacts. And it's almost becoming politically incorrect to even visit museums now because there's been a lot of growing momentum towards the campaign of returning these looted artifacts. But we believe we can change this narrative because it's possible to actually give museums actual artifacts that are handed to them freely and not stolen, by giving an artifact that has historical value and saying we're willing for you to have an artifact in appreciation that returning the stolen ones and no longer having that taint. And it's a way of showcasing living history. Part of what this represents is the interest in establishing, in promoting our living history.
gives me great pleasure, more so that a youngster like the gentleman whose work we are celebrating will return home from Britain and dive right straight to the culture that he really doesn't know too much about, but the interest is there. He came back home and then he started to do everything that you have been exposed to and that we have, been told about. It's amazing and it's very impressive. It's not only magical, it's spiritual. I mean, can you imagine having the opportunity to see something that is been over 200 years old? It's spiritual. It's like having the opportunity to see your parents of that era. So, as Benins, we are very proud of our culture and we hold them in very high esteem. They mean a whole lot to us. And for we to have them back, it's something that we'll be very grateful for. When those artifacts were in existence, there was no Nigeria. When those artifacts were in existence before the invasion, there was no Edo State. The only place that existed then was the Oba Palace and the Benin Kingdom. If those artifacts were taken away from Benin Kingdom, do we need to tell anybody? Do we need to argue where it needs to go to? It is the property of the Oba of Benin and the entire history of the kingdom. The final resting place for those artifacts is the palace, nowhere else. We are not an ancient culture. We are Benin, and the Benin people have ancient history that is still alive. This young man has proven that now, that even though we think things are going into extinction, this is reassuring that, there's so much ahead of us. There's plenty of hope that our culture will survive and will continue to survive. Our culture is here to stay, now and forever.
When you look how far the diverse fields where this man is coming from the medical field, and he's doing their two opposites. And he's doing this of our artworks, our artifacts. We all know that those are two very, very diverse fields. And then it was also pushed out of what we call a pandemic. So it leaves me what people call wow. So we are proud of him. This is genius work, and it gives us hope because artifacts, guilds, people see them in different lights. A lot of people see them as paintings, a lot of people see them as artwork, but for us as Beninese, contemporary Benin, our artifacts are our history. And you can see what he did in the first, up there. He linked each of the various works with our history, up till the crown that the king was wearing, down to his brothers. and how they lived in the palace or in ancient Benin. Everything is interconnected. So it's a history. It is not just an artwork or a picture. It tells us about our forefathers and our forebears. So we are happy that, like I said, it's a journalist work. We're happy. As a people, you must know where you are coming from to know, you understand. It shapes where you're going to. So the government is already committing resources towards more archaeological research on our history as a people. So with young men like this coming on board, like I said in my speech, in the speech from His Excellency, he and his team, it tells you that we have 100 of them out there. They just need to be encouraged and tapped. They have serious roles to play in shaping our future. There is a lot to be done, but what you have taken on lawfully, you have to return. That is what we are asking for. That's why we are asking them to bring. So we have 1,001 Osarobos out there that are ready to do something and give out as gifts. We have been giving them gifts over the years. So we are happy we are receiving what they took away. Work is going on. It's a continuous work. It is not, the artifacts are not coming in a day. So we are prepared to receive the artifacts.
I'm so excited and I'm so happy that in my time this thing is happening, because we had thought that the Benin culture was dying slowly, and to come and see young men, very young men who have been abroad all their life, come to Benin and they're able to set up all these things. You can see all the things, the artwork they did. It's marvelous and we are happy and it's awesome. And my advice to the youth is that they should not be lazy. They should find things they can do with their hands. It's not always you think you can make money by hammering. You can make money by doing 419. You can make money really by going down to the root and find things to do with your hand. And these things will cost money and yield money to you. See what happened today now. See what has been given to the youth to go on and invest in their businesses.
This one will give a lot of young ones idea and lesson. When they say people from Edo State, they're always going to Italy, Libya, this and this, Yahoo, but not everybody. I advise them to sit down, think what to do in your country. You will succeed.
In love with my culture. Not just that I'm here, if you look around here now, you'll find there are things about culture all over me. And I have written 1 or 2 books on our culture. So he knows that it's one of those things that I like. And I'm a chief and the head of the chiefs of the Benin Kingdom. If he's going to be my son, he will realize that if he hates culture, he's going to find things difficult. A surprise to me Like I said, he went to university. That's where we sent him. To come back home and take a right about turn and start doing something else. First of all, he wants to promote a story by way of acts, cultural actions. He wants to tell the story of Obaiwai the First by producing a play on him. All those that place was a marketplace where we had to put those. Those were supposed to be the marketplace for that play. And he built 2 other houses. One of them, a palace. Behind the house, that one, after 2 years, we had to get rid of them. He wanted to do, and you see, if my son starts showing that he likes my culture, it makes me happy. The boy had been there. He visited the British Museum. And the things he saw there, something they wrote, annoyed him. And when he came back, he talked about it. And he said, the artifact that people are talking about, they put it in downstairs in the holograms and under the they didn't put them in the proper museum. They are down in the tunnels. So he was annoyed. As far as I'm concerned, they stole our artifacts. My Oba Diawa, the President Oba's father, sent me to London with 1 or 2 chiefs, with one of his brothers as well. And he wrote a letter to our people there, the Benin Union of Great Britain, that they should join me in trying to. We went to Parliament go and plead that we want our artifacts. I've been in this thing for a long time. The point is, they stole our artifacts. And if they are having a mind change to return it, let them return it without any strings attached. There were no strings when they stole them. We want our artifacts. They stole them from the palace, and they burned the palace thereafter. They should return the artifacts to where they stole them. That's all I am interested in.
We are here to celebrate a new Guild in the ancient city of Benin Kingdom, in affiliation with what it used to be the ancient Guild versus the contemporary Guild. So today we are here with Mr. Lucas to a launching of a contemporary atmosphere for creative artists in Edo State. Here I'm to exhibit my sculptures, which is made of spark plugs. The story behind this is turning trash to wealth. That is the purpose of these sparkler sculptures. That was the key thing that instigated this art form. So as we see here, we have a total of 4,000 pieces of spark plugs and a couple of 300 pieces of tire valves to create this magnificent art piece. Before this time, my sculptures were mainly in bronze because I come from a family in Edo State who is into bronze casting, a lineage of bronze casting. So at some point I had to go to school to further expand my knowledge in sculpture. And during this process, I came in contact with metal sculpture, junk sculptures. So during my final year project, I had to do something different from the usual. Then I noticed the use of spark plugs wasn't in circulation, so I had to put in energy into creating spark plug sculptures. Like that is using spark plugs as a medium in sculpture, and that's how I came up with this. Some of the challenges I have with working with spark plugs, it's about its rigidity. You know, ordinarily we're supposed to work with materials that are easily manipulated to create forms. But the challenge I have with spark plug is that it's a rigid material. So what I do basically is to have an offcut because the plug is made of both ceramics and metal. So what I do sometimes to create my intricate forms is to break off the ceramic part of the spark plugs, which will help me create some intriguing forms, which in all together it wouldn't give me that. So when I break off the ceramics part, I think it helps me create such forms. The repatriation of our artifacts from British museums and other international foreign bodies, it's a welcome development for me because it's a homecoming event for me, because these are the things that instigated us into these creative platforms that we're in today, because it's just like taking off your history from you, and today it's being brought back in your own time. So for me, it's a welcome development. I would like to see them. I like to touch, if possible, I like to touch them to see what my ancestors did, because I know in some years from now, people will look up to my art as we look up to what is coming now. So it's a great deal for me as an artist. My advice to the government is to see to it that the creative minds here who are still based in the city of Benin should be encouraged, should be given much more better platform to express themselves, give them platform to exhibit what they have on ground. Yeah, it is a good thing to welcome the artifacts that are coming, but my view is, what about the artists that are still based there? What value should we do? So it is better also we encourage these people. I think the best thing to do is encouragement, like give them a platform to express themselves more. And I think this also will help the incoming artists. This will help more people to want to come into this field when they see people of their kind from the same region going beyond their shores just with the work of art. So I believe this will help them pick interest in wanting to come up with this as well.